were you like that around him?" asked Mercy as he entered the living room with her friend. They both settled down. They had just returned from a church concert that lasted for 5 hours. It was such a glorious one, as both of them smiled all through their journey home. "How was I like what?" asked Azuka. "Don't pretend not to know what I am saying. Why were you desperately trying to get the guest artist's attention after the service? You went so close to where he was walking and pretended not to have seen him. You stepped on him. Why did you do that?" asked Mercy. "Oh, that was really an accident. I didn't pretend. Why would you think so?" Azuka said. "I know you so well. I am not someone you can deceive. I know you have a fetishism for cool voices. You were trying to get his attention because of his voice. Just give up the pretense already. I know you," said Mercy. "Okay, you got me. I give up." That guy was so cool. God, so classy in his ministrations and so demure, said Azuka with a lost look into the world of fantasy. "There is nothing special about him. He's not better than our church choristers. They also sing well," said Mercy. "Nah, don't say that. His voice is breathtaking, illuminating, and out of this world. I wish he is single. I'll find out," she said. "And how do you plan to do that?" asked Mercy. "You don't worry. I am Hazuka. I know how to get what I want," she said, and walked elegantly into the room. Mercy staring at her. Mercy and Azuka are childhood friends. They went to different schools. Luck brought them together when they graduated and decided to settle in the same city. So, they decided to rent a shared apartment. Mercy is a chef, while Azuka is a fashion designer. Mercy is engaged to be married, while Azuka has been in and out of relationships since her early 20s. She is currently 28. She has always dated talented vocalists. She has never dated anyone who doesn't have a great voice. Once she finds a better vocalist, initiates a fight and leaves the relationship. One day, Azuka had bolted into the living room, looking scared, her handbag in her hand. Mercy was washing plates in the kitchen when she had the door open. She had known it was Azuka because only her would open the door without a knock. She waited for her to come to the kitchen to greet her as usual, but after some minutes of waiting for her and not seeing her, she stopped what she was doing and went into the living room. She saw Azuka in a worried state. "What's up, baby girl? You look like you just lost a child," said Mercy. Azuka was quiet. Mercy became worried. "Your silence is deafening. Talk to me. Whatever the issue is, we will thrash it out." "Tyler embarrassed me in a restaurant today. If not for the security personnel, he almost beat me up." Mercy paused, trying to take in what her friend just said. "Tyler? Gentle Tyler tried to beat you?" Mercy asked in awe. She knows Tyler, and the perception she has of him is that of a gentleman. He had visited Azuka every week throughout his 3 months relationship with Azuka. Since Mercy was a chef who cooks from home, she was always home when he visited, and she could attest to his gentle personality. He would visit with his guitar and sing a lot of love songs for Azuka, who would dance softly to the music. He was a decent and responsible guy, and it had hurt Mercy when Azuka broke up with him over a silly excuse. Azuka had told her she was leaving him because he was too quiet for a man, but Mercy knew she was leaving him for another vocal talent that she met at a concert some weeks ago. "I was having lunch with Shanu. I didn't know what he was doing in the restaurant or how he got to know I was there. He came to our table and accused me of using him and breaking his heart. He even reported me to Shanu and told him to run far from me, as I would end up breaking his heart too. What hurt me most was how Shanu left me when he was at the verge of eating me, said Azuka, close to tears. Shanu did what? Asked Mercy in shock. You had me. He left the table, said Azuka. There was silence. Mercy looked confused, trying to put her words together. What kind of man leaves his woman when he's about to be attacked by another man? What kind of men have you been dating? You don't study them at all? Even the one I thought was a saint wanted to eat you. All you do is get deceived by their voices. You don't take your time to check out values in them. Hope you know you might not be this lucky the next time. For how long will you do this? Queried Mercy. Really? And you think this is the right time to say all this? Do you have any idea how afraid I was in there when he attacked me? Do you? You deserve it all and I don't pity you one bit, said Mercy. Azuka's eyes stared at her in anger. I told you to stop dating people for your selfish reason. Stop playing games with their heart. It hurts and I don't blame Tyler for wanting to eat you. That guy loved you. He was used by you. So the reaction is normal, Mercy said. Are you saying it is right for a man to lay his hand on a woman? Asked Azuka angrily. That was not what I meant. I meant... Azuka stood up and stormed out of the room. Mercy wasn't sorry. She started pressing her phone. Azuka got over the incident. One would think she learnt her lesson. But no, she still continued to hunt for men who sing. And no, she doesn't stop at just making them friends. She gets them into a romantic relationship with her. She's not a chorister, but she's quite close to the choir department. She had bought them over by giving them discounts many times whenever she sews their uniforms. Their church has a habit of inviting external ministerials every month. She has a friend in the choir department that she gives a lot of gifts. So she gets information about the ministerial from Lola, who is one of the executives of the choir department. She would check out the ministry on their social media and chat with them. She would start by massaging their ego and telling them how the administration blessed her. She would also mention that she would like to sew a cloth for them for free. And before they resist her demand, she sends pictures of samples of her work. Azuka is a skillful fashion designer with a good eye for design. She makes bespoke and unique designs that cannot easily be replicated. It is one of the reasons the choir department of their church uses her, despite the fact that they find her attitude of wanting to know things about the guest ministerials irritating. But Azuka has been able to woo them over when they realized she heavily discounts their clothes bills for them. Having sampled what other designers charge out there, they were grateful to be partakers of her benevolence as it helped them save a lot of money. Azuka would sometimes record success in her attempts to get the men. Some of them would bring their fabrics to her office at the mention of free service, and because Azuka has an irresistible beauty and some subtle seduction on her part, she gets them to become a man later on. She wanted just one thing in her relationship with this kind of men, which is to sing for her every day. It doesn't matter how terrible they are in other departments, as long as they take the devotion of singing for her daily seriously, she is hooked. When questioned on her obsession for men that sing, she would reply that it helps give her peace. She was almost swindled by a guy she once dated. Williams was a great vocalist who didn't just sing to Azuka every day, he sang to her daily with so much finesse. like he would do at a concert. That was one thing Azuka had missed in other men. They sang to her at her request, but not with the same passion and finesse with which they sang on stage, and it's at that point she gets tired of them. She loved William's devotion to her so much that she started calling him my peace. William started feeling himself. Soon, he began to ask her for money. In addition to eating lunch daily at Azuka's place, which had gone on for 3 months. There is this business deal I need to do. It will cost me 2 million. But from my research, the return on investment runs into hundreds of millions. I will be glad if you can step in. I will share the ROI with you when it becomes a reality. He has presented a business plan to Azuka, who was still ruminating on it. Azuka studied it and noticed that he had put in a lot of effort into it. I'm really low on cash now, but I can squeeze out 200k. Please manage it for now. I will send more as soon as I have it, said Azuka. Williams wasn't pleased. No, you can't possibly be doing this to me, Azuka. I asked for 2 million. You are offering to give me 200k? What's the correlation? Can't you see the math isn't matching? You can do better, please, he complained. Azuka looked at him, shocked at his audacity. Did you keep money with me? Do you know how many days of work it took me to get the 200k I offered to give you? If you borrow it in the bank, do you know how much interest you would pay? Asked Azuka angrily. Oh, you haven't even given me the money. You are already playing God. What happens when you now give me the money? Do you know how much free singing sessions I have given you? If I wanted to charge you now for all the times I have sang for you, do you think your miserable 200k comes close? He ranted. Azuka was dumbfounded. But I thought you did it out of love for me. I didn't know you had plans to monetize it. Don't also forget I fed you every lunch, said Azuka. That was the height of it for Williams. He had stood up and walked out of her office. Not just her office, but her life. Azuka froze. She was torn between calling him back and listening to the voice in her head that told her she was doing the right thing. When she got home, she has discussed the issue with Mercy, her friend, who laughed hysterically. She didn't know her friend had been feeding her boyfriend for the past 3 months. Are you sure I won't take you to therapy over this obsession for minstrels? I fear it would be your undoing later when I am not close to your life. The silly things you have done to sustain your relationships. If you had put that effort in your business, you will be twice bigger than you are now, Mercy said, as Azuka relaxed on the couch, flashing back to the situation. Azuka has always loved a nice singing voice since childhood. She has tried singing many times, but she just wasn't bestowed with a gift. She had hated that about her. If I could recreate myself, I would put a sonorous voice in my vocal cord, she said. Doesn't sleep at night except she turns on the music. And no, the voice has to be a certain way before she loves it. She doesn't just fall in love with any man that sings. It has to be a smooth, feminine voice. And that is why she likes to listen to them first before she makes her move. She had sometimes failed in her attempt as she would realize that some of the men were married. After her extensive research on them, sometimes they are engaged and she painfully has to let go. She doesn't love the idea of sharing a man, so she steers clear of men in such category. Due to her love for music and great voices, she is always friends with the choir department of whatever church she finds herself. From the campus down to youth service and live outside service, she always crawled her way into the heart of the choir of the church. Many times, she had been urged to join the choir. Your voice is cool. You can sing and it can get better with training. It doesn't have to be sonorous, said Sister Blessing, who advised Azuka. Asuka pretended to have agreed, but she never joined the choir. She has brainwashed herself into believing that a voice must sound a certain way before it can be called good. With a kind of obsession for a smooth voice, she leaves a relationship as soon as she finds someone with a better voice who is willing to get into a romantic relationship with her. In the past 2 years, Asuka has had about 60 relationships that didn't exceed 3 months each. One of her casual friends noticed the pattern in her, had told her her obsession was a sign of discontentment and immaturity, and told her to work on it. Asuka had got angry with her and told her she knew what she was doing. According to her, she would get married when she gets the best man for her. One cool evening, Asuka was having an evening stroll with two of her friends. They had just finished watching a match in the stadium and they were walking out of the compound. They passed through a lonely path, and while they were talking and walking, they walked past 3 young men who were having a song rehearsal. Their voices were so clean to the extent that the ladies were tempted to stop their journey and go sit with them, but Asuka intervened. You people must be very local. These are just basic singers, like very basic. Have you had my man sing? Oh God, you will feel yourself in the third realm. These ones are still learning where my man is. Anyway, when you wouldn't go to a modern church, how would things like this not be strange to you? Attend churches with sound music. You won't hear. Now you are disgracing yourself outside. Asuka as her friends looked on. One of them laughed it off, but the other wasn't happy with the wash down Asuka gave her. Which man are you talking about anyway? Because I heard that your last relationship was with a man you were feeding and he wanted to swindle you. Have you got yourself another swindler? Asked Sharon. Ella laughed. Asuka was shocked they knew about that. They were her friends, but it was more of a casual friendship. They only gather one another together when they are bored and need to go out. She thought only her best friend, Mercy, knew about it. She didn't tell anyone else since then. She stopped talking for the remaining part of the journey while the other ladies chatted on. Asuka got home and accused Mercy of gossiping her with outsiders. Mercy was confused and she had asked her what she meant by that. Asuka gave the details and Mercy denied it. She said she hasn't even seen the ladies for about 6 months, neither does she have their phone numbers. She walked out of the room angrily after expressing her disappointment at Asuka for thinking she could gossip her. Asuka felt sorry. She flung herself on the couch to think about her life. It's been 2 months since my last relationship. Why is it taking me so long to find another man? She soliloquized. Asuka replaces her man barely a month after breaking up. How does she get this man? Asuka is a sucker for concerts. Not only does she attend a very musical-oriented church, she attends many of the concerts in town and ensures she gets a valuable information on how to contact the singer before she leaves the event. Asuka is also a free-spirited lady who would leave her seat to go dance in front of the minstrel and dance in a very captivating way. Others will think she is so grateful to God, not knowing it's a ploy to get noticed. Gospel artists are the cheapest way to get. Very cheap. Just promise them free service. Asuka had told her apprentices one day during lunch hour. That assertion was made confidently by her because of all the minstrels she had approached and wooed to herself. Only 2 had declined, which to her is a good success rate. She noticed, however, that after that statement to her apprentices, the month after came with back-to-back rejections from her subject of interest. It was like the universe had her when she made the statement belittling minstrels. She experienced many no as replies to her proposed relationship with them. She felt sad and started sulking around the house. Mercy had teased her many times. I thought you used to say you were an expert at getting these men. What happened to your expertise? She asked. Azuka would ease while Mercy would laugh out loud. 2 weeks later, she had gone to spend the weekend with an auntie of ours in one of the notable estates in town. Auntie Amanda is a rich woman who lives in a luxurious estate. Many of her neighbors are celebrities. Auntie Amanda and her children were excited to see Azuka. Azuka went with gifts of clothes to the family. Her auntie patronizes her a lot, not because she is family, but because she is good at what she does. They had dinner together that night, and while eating, there was a knock on the door. The maid went to open it. The visitor turned out to be their neighbor who came to ask after Auntie Amanda's husband, who is a doctor. The visitor entered the living room and Auntie Amanda's husband had gone to attend to him. Azuka turned back to look at the visitor, and what she saw shocked her. The visitor was a popular gospel artist. She first of all had her doubts, but she whispered to her auntie, who confirmed she was right. She stared at him in admiration and touched her chest. "He is so handsome," she whispered. "Shush! He's married," Auntie Amanda whispered to her. Few minutes later, the neighbor left. Azuka felt livelier. Seeing Psalmist the singer made her night. "How I wish you were mine," she said. "Be careful what you wish for. The grass isn't always green on the other side," said Auntie Amanda. The next morning, Azuka had stayed outside their apartment to catch a good view of the compound. While watching, a beautiful young woman went in her pajamas, holding her left cheek, went out of the apartment nearby. She was walking and fuming. Azuka stared on, trying to make sense of what was happening. After a few minutes of watching the woman who kept on walking, she went inside to tell her auntie. "That must be Mrs. Martins. She came out from the apartment adjacent ours, right?" "Yes," Azuka replied. "Yes, that's Sammy's wife. I am sure he must have hit her again. When will this man stop?" said her auntie. Azuka couldn't believe what she just heard. "Auntie, are you saying the public figure, that handsome young man I saw here yesterday, hits his wife?" asked Azuka. "It is what it is. That is why you should be careful what you wish for. He hits her all the time. We have even reported him many times to the estate management, but the wife would go there and tell them nothing of such happened. Since then, we have minded our business," she said. Azuka kept quiet and got lost in deep thoughts. She left for her house the next day. The thought of the fact that such a man eats his wife didn't leave her head. She went online and searched for Psalmist's YouTube page. She saw videos of him singing on the altar, worshipping, lifting up hands, and even going on his knees. He always has such breathtaking godly composure while ministering. Azuka shook her head. Truly, man watches the face, God watches the heart. And to think I would have gone for him if I knew he was single, she muttered. Since then, she killed her fetishism for having a romantic relationship with ministers. She started avoiding them like a plague. Whenever she sees a male minister singing, the thought of Sammy's misbehavior flashes across her mind and she stops singing. Sometimes she takes a walk till the session is done. She stayed away from dating for 8 months because she just didn't know how to date a man who doesn't sing. She has never done so, and her recent disgust for ministries has made her avoid them. There has been a man trying to woo her for 6 months. Ben was an engineer and the choir director of his church. Azuka didn't know that information about him because he doesn't look like someone who sings. Azuka believes that minstrels with great voices usually have a particular look. Ben wasn't anything like that. Since the experience she had at her auntie's place, she hadn't taken her time to even spend time with any man to make the decision of either to date them or not. So she just assumed many things about Ben, as much as she now has her obsession for ministries punctured. Deep down, it is still a man who has a nice singing voice that she wants. She had refused Ben, who was persistent for 6 months before she finally agreed. Mercy has convinced her to go on a date with him. She endured 3 dates with him before she got to know he was also a ministerial. They were having lunch in a restaurant, and as a gospel music played on, Ben sang alongside it. Azuka got to know about his good voice. She was so excited that Ben could see it. Right there, she said yes to a relationship with him. Ben was happy. He didn't know what prompted the sudden change. They kicked off their relationship, and Ben was such a great lover. After a month, they started having issues. Ben wasn't ready for Azuka's childish routine of having him sing for her every day. He would give her his recorded videos instead, which Azuka didn't like. He sang for her on days he was less busy, but not as frequent as Azuka wanted it. Ben was a good lover who, though busy, created time for her. He bought her things and checked up on her. Soon, Azuka began to quarrel with him over his refusal to sing for her daily. She refused to accept singing on phone. It must be done physically, like her past boyfriends who visited her daily. After 3 months of intense fights, Ben left the relationship. Azuka felt insulted. He will come back and beg me. She was on that for 6 months, and just one day, when she decided to check Ben out on Facebook, he saw his wedding invitation card. She opened her mouth in shock and burst into tears. She felt so depressed. For the past 6 months, she had been unhappy and found it hard to find a replacement for Ben. She had thought the qualities he had were no big deal to her, since she didn't get what she really wanted, which was having him sing daily to her. But when he left, she missed the beautiful things he did for her. How he checked up on her every morning with romantic messages that made her blush. How he sometimes sent lunch to her at work. How he sometimes showed up at her shop to take her out. She began to compare the relationship with her past relationships, and she realized Ben stood out. It then dawned on her that her needs go beyond listening to a nice voice every day. She had other needs, which entailed wanting to feel cared for, wanting to feel needed as someone who would be committed to her. Suddenly, our obsession for nice voices began to look childish to her. Why was I so desperate to date them? If I needed to listen to a nice voice, all I needed was just to attend a club that brings in singers every day, or attend concerts every day. There are concerts every day in this big city. Why did I think it must be done through getting a man who sings? Now, I have lost a great man. She was so angry at herself. She blamed herself and wondered if she would ever get a man like Ben. Mercy had noticed that disconnect from her usual self and asked her what was wrong. After her tales of woe and regret, Mercy told her, "I am glad for the first time you are coming to a self-realization, and I think your deliverance has come. As for Ben, it is good to miss him. He was a good man to you, but please do not fall for the false belief that you won't get another good man. There is no shortage of good men. There are still men as good and even better than Ben. All you need is to take your time to heal. Get right the values that one should look out for before getting into the next relationship. Read books on relationships, listen to relationship experts, and I assure you, you will succeed," said Mercy. Azuka nodded her head slowly. Because Azuka was serious about her desire to change, she cultivated the habit of going online to research how to control her excessive love for music. She realized the urge was still there. She realized that her childhood trauma that she faced when she had to work as a maid after the death of her parents had made her run to music as a means of comfort. After a hard day's work and series of tongue lashings from her boss, she would cry so much and wouldn't sleep until she turned on music. Music helped her sleep. Soon, she got adapted to it. Later on as an adult, she had attended a particular concert that had a retinue of great singers. It was such a breathtaking experience for her. It was as though she was transported to heaven. She felt so touched to the extent that even after the concert, she still sat in the auditorium for the next 1 hour, trying to take in more of the atmosphere. It was then she decided it would be good to have someone with a singing talent in her life. That was where and how her obsession started. She decided to get a therapist. Miss Daisy is good at her job, she had told Azuka in one of her sessions. Do you know God gave ministers the singing gift for us to enjoy? Not really for them to enjoy, they are a gift to us. It is actually work for them. You enjoy their voice better as an outsider than as an insider because they are humans who also get tired, get busy, and sometimes get sad. Even with them doesn't mean you will enjoy their singing talent all the time. They are humans and not robots who can do things for you at the press of a button. When you see a human exhibit a gift that you don't have, you shouldn't get angry at God. That is God's thoughtfulness towards you. He put you there at that moment to enjoy the gift He has deposited in that person. The person doesn't have to be yours because even the person doesn't enjoy the gift as much as you, the listener. Don't forget, it is work for them. It is enjoyment for you. It is work for them because they have to do a lot to maintain their voice, their pitch, and their flow. Singers are not the only talented people on earth. You think they are the most talented because you attend concerts only. Did you know you are talented? Have you heard people talk about your skills as a designer? Do you know I have got to hear about you many times before I met you in person? Miss Daisy. Azuka smiled in admiration of herself. She didn't think there was much to be celebrated in her. You are talented and you have been a great blessing to our society. You are the reason many average people are able to wear bespoke dresses. As good as you are, you don't charge fees that an average person can't afford. That is you giving back to the society, and you have a good reputation out there. Trust me, I celebrate you. Keep developing yourself, and soon people will pay to watch and listen to your story. Stop getting obsessed with other people's talent. Focus on bringing out the fire in your bones. Azuka lifted her head and sobbed. The words were so refreshing.